What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. We hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy. You, however humbly we do, to our postgame show here at bloggingtheboys.com. This is our postgame, which we stream live on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, the Blogging the Boys Twitch channel, and the Blogging the Boys Facebook page. You can catch the show live on any one of these platforms. Obviously, you can catch the rewatch on those same platforms, or you can listen to the audio version of that on the Blogging the Boys Podcast Network. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Twitch channel, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our podcast network. However you consume this show, if you can make it a regular thing in your life, that would go over very well for us. Make sure to visit bloggingtheboys.com all the time for the latest and greatest in the world of the Dallas Cowboys. And as mentioned, my name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at RJ Ochoa, or on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. Now, we are here, as mentioned, because it is our postgame show. And the Dallas Cowboys, I think, did play a football game on Sunday in Buffalo in Orchard Park. They lost. And in fact, I think the word lost is too kind to what happened to the Cowboys. The Cowboys were bamboozled. They were overwhelmed. They were destroyed. They were outmatched. They were completely and totally eviscerated. They were humbled. They were outdone. They were outwitted. They were outlasted. Shout out to my guy, Jeff Probst, the Survivor season finale coming up on Wednesday. That's the only thing I have to look forward to in my life, apparently. This was a total shellacking. Like last week when we talked about, and we sat here and we were real high and mighty. We said this wasn't ever close against Philly, right? And it wasn't. We were never even worried, even after the strip sack fumble return for a touchdown. We weren't panicked. This was never a game. It was never close for the Cowboys. And for what it's worth, if you did not see this by now, I don't know how that would be possible, because I know that you check out bloggingtheboys.com, and so you would have seen, or if you follow me on social media, that the Cowboys did clinch a playoff berth on Sunday, because the Lions won on Saturday, because the Packers and Falcons lost on Sunday. That did punch their playoff ticket. But as I get to kind of my initial thoughts about this game, who the hell cares? And obviously we care, right? This is the meme of the what is it, the person covering the whatever it is with the umbrella, like, just because I'm mad doesn't mean I don't care. We do care. We absolutely care. We're happy on some microscopic right now level that our team is going to the playoffs. But what upsets me is this team was supposed to be different. And by that, I mean not something cliche or cookie cutter or hallmarky. I know that those movies are really popular this time of year. So if that's your cup of tea, hey, that's up to you. Speaking of cups of tea, my voice is finally starting to feel normal. And it, of course, happens to happen when the Cowboys are proven to be potential frauds. I don't know. I know that's harsh. But what I mean about the Cowboys supposing or supposedly being different is that they were not, they were. I did a hit before the game started with my buddy Kevin Gray on his YouTube channel. What I talked about is that I didn't ever really feel, and I think that a lot of people agree with me, and I know how stupid this sounds in hindsight based on the game we just watched, but I never really felt nervous about this game, because in the past, as the Cowboys have gone into a dangerous environment in December, it's been for their playoff lives. It has been, you got to win, and that has added to the intensity, and that has added to the emotion. Thank you, by the way, Senor Ray 3, for stock up my voice. It is a very stock down day in my stock report, I tell you that much. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like they are comfortably a very good team. They are the team that is built to go to the house of a desperate team, of a hungry team. We knew, none of us were stupid. We knew all week long that the Bills are on the outside of the AFC playoff picture. NBC's breaking it down right behind you here in my office. The Bills need everything and then some just to get into the tournament, a luxury that the Cowboys obviously earned before this game even kicked off, as mentioned. So where they were supposed to be different is the Cowboys were supposed to be able to march into the house of a hungry and desperate team and say, boo-hoo, we don't care how hungry or desperate you are. We're here to collect our win because our eyes are set on bigger prizes. We are not content. We are not good with just being a playoff team. We want the division title. We want the one seed in the NFC. We want to keep applying pressure to the Philadelphia Eagles, to the San Francisco 49ers. And you know what they did? Absolutely none of that. They looked flat. They looked dejected. They looked overrun. They looked overwhelmed in every single phase. It was incredible disappointment. And none of that necessarily means that they are frauds or they're trash or they're going to get bounced in the first round of the division round of the playoffs. I mean, I think it's important that we keep perspective. I know the broadcast tried to do that at the very end of this game, but it is more than fair to be very upset with this team. They didn't lose because Josh Allen went supernova. They didn't lose because of a, playing off of an upright on a field goal attempt. They didn't lose because of a weird tip ball or a subjective, pass interference penalty that set the Bills up with field position that they turned into the game-winning field goal. They lost because they got their ass kicked. They lost because they were the inferior team. They had no chance on Sunday in Buffalo, and they made sure that absolutely every single person in the building watching the game knew that. And so I understand it if you are upset about it. So let's get to your comments. David Smith says, looks off. I'm going to get to your super chats, by the way. Thank you for those of you who were early and before me here. Bree Guy 75 says, this was pathetic. David Smith says they got big boy. Shane Davis says the run defense is scary bad. Adam Blank says biggest disappointment today was the run defense. Second is the abysmal offense. Brian Woodbury says zero stock ups today. All stocks are down. Joseph Palumbo says, do you think Hankins would have stopped that running from Cook defensively in the big moment of growth? Offensively, same. I understand your question, Joseph. And I mean what I'm about to say with absolutely zero disrespect intended towards Jonathan Hankins. If that's the case, then there is something categorically wrong with your defense, because we sit here week after week after week after week. And if you're around here for all those weeks, you know how big of a thorn this is in my side. And we say that Dan Quinn is the reason. Dan Quinn is the guy. Dan Quinn is the answer. Dan Quinn's the one who's really in charge. If this is all about Jonathan Hankins, as great as he may be, I mean, what the hell is Dan Quinn doing? What about Micah Parsons? What about DeMarcus Lawrence? What about, all these players and other, bodies on the defensive line? What about Osa Odighizuwa and DeMarcus Lawrence? It could not be, and I don't mean to take this not on you, Joseph. It was a fair question, obviously. It cannot be just, well, Jonathan Hankins was gone, so that explains why James Cook was the greatest running back in the world on Sunday afternoon. Just a really, really, really tough scene for the Cowboys. Larry says, hard to believe how bad this run defense is. They cannot be trusted. David Smith says tackling was so bad. Frederick says soft edge run defense, not attacking the intermediate area of Buffalo. Secondary, Damon, I think it's Damon Butler on the Book of Faces says McCarthy is terrible with challenges and time clock management. I'm not going to 100% get onto McCarthy for the lack of the challenge, because I understand if people did not have the view. But what I don't forgive him for in that moment specifically is if you know that Buffalo is hurrying up, take the shot. At that point, it is totally and completely worth it. So while it's not clearly an educated guess, if it's a gut guess at that point in time, do it. And so I'm willing to place some blame on him, obviously, for this moment. And we'll get to him as we get to my stalker part, because as you can imagine, Mike McCarthy is a part of it. Juan Duran says, this hurts, but Cook won me my fantasy game today. I don't really know how to feel. At least you have that. David, I agree with you. So there was no downside to challenging. Again, I understand if you can't, say beyond a shadow of a doubt that you want to make the challenge, but you have to try it simply for the upside. I agree. All right, let's see here. Hillary Molly Vegas says Dan Quinn's run defense is embarrassing. Also, these penalties are ridiculous. LOL. I saw a tweet, and forgive me who it was. I would love to give credit, but I missed it. It was flying so fast. The Bills ran the ball a million times today. Did they have a single holding penalty? Right? I'm not trying to say the Cowboys are the worst team in the NFL when it comes to discipline, but it seems like these things only happen to them. Now, Isaac Banuelo says on Facebook, typical Cowboys, always folding in big games. This is my last thing before we get to Super Chats. This is going to be an annoying week. All right, I want you to prep and prepare yourself. I know that's the same word, but I want you to be ready. This is going to be an annoying week, and maybe you want it to be. Maybe you just want to steer into. Maybe you're mad and you bring on the annoyance. It's going to be an annoying week, and you're going to see a lot of family and friends. Hopefully celebrating the holiday that you haven't seen in some time, I imagine. And there's going to be that person in your family, whatever, that says, "How about them Cowboys? They're so bad. They're so terrible. Same old, blah blah blah." It's going to annoy you. And what annoys me isn't even that, but it annoys me how the Cowboys opened the door for that. And I don't mean to say that I don't expect them to win every game, but they were going to lose, right? We all knew it was impossible for them to keep winning and for them to win out. That was never going to happen. But it's the way that they lost. They set themselves up. They opened the door for everyone who's going to talk about how they can't win on the road, how they can't beat a team, how they're going to be the same old Cowboys. They made the bed. They made the bed. They had all of the control and opportunity in front of them. They were behind the wheel of this thing, and they completely and totally let it slip away. That's on them. Wes, by the way, says, my family lives in Philly. I can't wait for that. Yeah, good times. Good times coming for a lot of people. Shane Davis, I know I said last one. We'll get the super chat because I appreciate all of you. It says the Cowboys outbilled the Bills today. All the talk coming in was how the Bills always make a mistake to lose the game. Well, they didn't have the opportunity to beating themselves today. That is very, Very, very true. All right, super chats. Thank you, those of you who were here earlier. Paul, thank you for the super chat. Says goodbye, BTB. No need for this again. Paul, I don't know if you're here, but if you aren't, oh my goodness, that is a sizable super chat from Paul. I just kind of focused my vision. Thank you very much, Paul. If you are here, if you're not, we will miss you. I understand being upset with the Cowboys and being mad. And I don't mean to say something to sound optimistic to just annoy you because I know what that's like. I know when we all want to just be mad and be down and hate the world or whatever in whatever situation in life. And when you're in that place, sometimes you're in a place where it's really annoying where somebody tries to be sunshiny and cheerful. And if you're in that place, I don't want to do that for you, but I do think it's important to keep perspective. The Cowboys are 10-4. They are a playoff team, literally, and they still have all their goals in front of them. Just because they lost on Sunday does not mean the world is ending. It does mean that some things obviously need to be fixed and need to be worked on. But nevertheless, thank you very much, Paul. It was very kind of you for the super chat. I hope you don't leave, not because the super chat was awesome, but because we want everybody around here at BTB. FKit Crutch, thank you for the super chat. Says got to get punched in the mouth sometime. Time to regroup again. Kind of an optimistic spin on this. Like, hey, you know what? Let's just roll with it. Let's just figure it out. We can't win them all. It's the NFL, right? It's the league with the most parity in the world. I get it if that's your take. I get it if that's your stance, but I also get it if you are troubled and concerned and mad, to be quite literal. Amir Khan, thank you for the super chat. Says very hard L. That's very true. Cowboys run defense has been exposed since the 2018-19 Rams game. Shout out CJ Anderson. The gap between us and San Francisco feels further than ever. I agree with that. Dan Quinn, sad face. I know it hurts a lot of you to disparage Dan Quinn, to not to reckon with the idea that Dan Quinn is fallible and not perfect, and that Dan Quinn might not be the person who's like running everything, into perfect, harmony for the Cowboys. But sometimes Dan Quinn has flaws, and I agree with that in Amir. I do agree that right now, I mean, look, I've said this line a few times over the last few weeks as the Cowboys have obviously been rolling, how I wouldn't pick the Cowboys in a playoff game, against the Niners. But if the Cowboys, match up with San Francisco at some point of the playoffs, I've said like I don't know how I'm going to pick Dallas, but deep in my gut, I thought like I'll pick them. Right? Like, how could I not? I can't imagine. I mean, how could you possibly come close? The Niners look like a machine right now. The Cowboys do look a little bit like fool's gold, and that is a hard pill to swallow. Anthony, thank you for the super chat. Says not to dismiss a bad loss, but it was a weird game from the start. Media hype needed to calm down, dial it down the stretch. We're fine. Again, I think this is a good, the water's starting to recede. Everybody's calming down. They are fine. They're 10-4. And this is the proverbial, cope line. But, if you had told any of us that they would be 10-4 entering, I guess this is the week of Christmas, right? I mean, I know it's on Monday, but, if you had told anybody they would be 10-4, entering the final days leading up to Christmas, I think we all would have taken that. But it does feel particularly demoralizing because they weren't close in any way, shape, or form. So I get it, and I know you do too as well, Anthony. Thank you, Hillary Molly Vegas. Very kind of you with the super chats. It's just a shout out to you, RJ, for being awesome at your job and with fans. Merry Christmas. Let's win next week. I've been talking about how the Cowboys winning, it makes this time a lot more fun. This time of year, a lot of you who follow me know my wife and I have a 2-year-old son, and it's his life has just really kind of changed the way I view this time of year. And I know that that's a common theme with parents and people and family and things like that. And so this is still a wonderful time of year. I appreciate all of you for being my internet friends and for enjoying listening to me talk about the Dallas Cowboys and participating with me in talking about the Dallas Cowboys. I've said this many times. The high school version of myself will never believe that we got here all these years later. But thank you very much, Hillary Molly Vegas. Very kind of you to say. Tyler, thank you for the super chat. Says season over. I don't see how we beat San Francisco in the playoffs. I'm kind of with you. I mean, it doesn't mean the season is over. We thought the season was over, obviously, after they lost to San Francisco, and they rallied and they proved to be one of the better teams in the NFL. And, it doesn't undo who they are, right? We know that they can compete. We know they can contend. We know that they have obvious flaws. We know that they have obvious, points of being exposed. And I think that is fair to reckon with and fair to kind of manage in terms of emotions. It's a hard way to feel, but the season's not over. I mean, let's be clear, let's be fair. The season's not over, but I get feeling that way. Jay Recruiter, thank you for the super chat. Says Cowboys can lose the last 3 games and pretty much still clinch the 5th seed. Rest the wounded. I agree with this. And for anyone who's unaware, the Cowboys aren't locked in, but they are about as effectively locked in to the 5 seed as they can be. So they've clinched the playoff spot. At the very least, there will be a wild card. But their loss on Sunday, coupled with San Francisco's win on Sunday, and the fact that San Francisco did beat them, means that they now have really no shot of overtaking San Francisco for the 1 seed if they do overtake Philadelphia for the division. So that's 2 things the Cowboys now have to overtake. It feels like an F1 race, and we need some DRS up in here. But you know, it's really difficult, and we've been saying this, even under the guise that the Cowboys could potentially win out. It's really difficult to imagine Dallas overtaking just Philadelphia. Now, I know there's the question about Jalen Hurts playing on Monday night, whatever the case may be, but Philadelphia can still lose on Monday night and just beat the Giants twice and the Cardinals once and completely and totally wrap up the NFC East. So while we're still rooting for that to happen because a home playoff game is better than a road one, it is starting to get further and further and further out of reach. And to the point here, that is going to about as much as it can lock up the Cowboys in the 5 seed because the loser of the NFC East, so to speak, has such a ground on the Vikings and the Rams and the Packers and the Falcons because they're no longer leading the NFC South, obviously. That it will at the very least afford the Cowboys seemingly the opportunity to manufacture their own bye come Week 18 in the road trip to Washington. It stands to reason that Dallas will be locked into that 5 seed by then. So that is somewhat good. Michael says, "Let's start scouting for 2024." Yeah, I mean, it feels like that kind of day. Just a tough day. Ultra Cowboy says, "DQ, 3 years in Dallas and still has a terrible run defense, needs to go." There are a lot of people who I think are maybe of the mindset that you are, but that would still be an overreaction. I am one of Dan Quinn's biggest critics, and we don't need to say this. Let's calm down just a little bit. All right. Let's kind of get to my stock report here because we've caught up on super chats and everyone is effectively pissed off. So that being said, if you are new around here, you're new listening or whatever the case may be, maybe you stumbled here because the algorithm suggested it to you. We do a stock report here on the postgame show. It will not shock you to learn that there is not a single stock up. There is one volatile stock. So I'll let you guess what that is. I also write about this subject at bloggingtheboys.com, so make sure to check that out. And I also do a bit of an Instagram kind of that's what I'm going to call it. So follow me on Instagram. I've worked very hard. I love Twitter, but I've worked very hard at Instagram and trying to, develop a little bit of a following over there as well. So if you haven't yet and you want to see pictures of my dogs, check me out. I'm at RJ Ochoa over there. Nevertheless, Mike McCarthy. Now, if you have followed me, you know that my shoulders are tired because I am carrying the give Mike McCarthy credit tape. And I still believe that Mike deserves an enormous amount of credit. As mentioned, the Cowboys clinched a playoff berth today without even lifting a finger. And they did so because they have been a very good team for most of this season. And they are going to the playoffs for the 3rd year in a row, which is something that nobody has ever said in the age of social media. Because the last time it happened was 1994, 1995, and 1996. But you cannot be this unprepared. This was probably, I know that there are some stinkers in the last almost 4 years now, but this was at the very least one of the worst games in the Mike McCarthy era from a preparation standpoint, from an execution standpoint, from an overall standpoint. This was basura. Throw it out. Burn the tape, whatever you want to do. This was gross. This was trash. The penalties, we can sit here and I think it would be fair to talk about how the DeMarcus Lawrence penalty was debatable, and that allowed Buffalo to score. How the J-Ron Curse penalty was debatable, and that obviously kept things alive. How the Sam Williams penalty was somewhat debatable and kept the drive alive that saw the Bills score. And so we could talk and we can be here, well, the refs were bad and it was subjective and blah, blah, blah. You cannot have these penalties. You cannot have these things happening to you. And it feels like penalties have been a talking point and a thing with the Cowboys under Mike McCarthy for the last few years now. So that has to get tidied up. But beyond that, we talked about how I believe that the Cowboys are different to a degree. They might still be disappointing, but you were supposed to be different with a capital D. You were supposed to be different. And, I think that we have some we're going to be cool here. If you're in the chat, this is a family show. People are around here, so let's be cool. Those are the rules around here. We're all hanging out. We could be upset and pissed off, maintaining appropriateness and peace and calm with one another. But that being said, it all falls on Mike. Look, I know the Cowboys got their cute little garbage time touchdown at the end of this game, and that, in a literal sense, prevents us from dragging them the way that we dragged the Eagles last week by saying the Eagles didn't even score an offensive touchdown. In a literal sense, the Cowboys did score a touchdown in this game. I am not going to count this. Obviously it counts, but I do not count your garbage time, stat padding touchdown, whatever. And beyond that, what are you doing subjecting Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Tyler Smith and Tyron Smith to potential injuries down 31-3. No, this is not the flex or whatever you think it is. That is so ridiculous and categorically irresponsible. We dragged Nick Sirianni and the Eagles for doing this against the Niners 2 weeks ago, and we said they're just stat padding. They're just going after this. They're just trying to inflate Jalen Hurts' MVP candidacy. You cannot say that about them because we don't like them and not say the same things about Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys in this case. Cool. You got a touchdown. Maybe CeeDee Lamb obviously got you the fantasy points, whether your playoffs started this week or not. But that was so stupid on a day where had the magnitude of how precious health is reminded to you, reminded in front of your face with Zach Martin having an injury. By the way, I have not seen a Zach Martin update at this moment in time. So yeah, that was awful. That was horrible. I can't defend that. I can't defend anything that Mike McCarthy did. Like I said, I am not going to you know really harp on the lack of but it was, that's me being as generous as I possibly can be. It was a horrible decision to not challenge it. Obviously, it doesn't really make a difference in retrospect and in hindsight because it was so bad. I mean, in every single sense, but man, Solam, I hope that's how to pronounce this. That padding at the end was inexcusable. CD got beat up for it and paid for it dearly on that drive. Terrible for McCarthy. And here's the thing, like, if you are gonna stat pad or play in garbage time and you want to prove a message about how you finished and blah blah blah, all this like lame football cliche stuff, if that's what you want to do, fine. Why are you throwing into triple coverage hospital balls at CD Lamb? Like, what are you doing here? If you're gonna keep everybody in, this needs to all be shallow work, high probability work. No contact work. It was ridiculous to keep him in at that point in time. David says at this point we should rest the starters. Otis says those guys should have been out mid third quarter. I agree. I mean, that might be going a little bit too far. I agree though with Frederick Johnson. Johnson put it best, said risk potential injury for what? Like, what did the Cowboys gain? Are they more proud of themselves? Like, I'm not even asking that rhetorically. Like, what are the Cowboys standing taller as they head for the buses and the airport, or at the airport? You know what I mean? After this, because of that touchdown, it was silly in a lot of ways. So stock down, Mike McCarthy, in my mind. Stock down. I know you all knew it was coming. Dan Quinn, Danny Q. Look, I know that I can be hard on Dan Quinn, and a lot of it is because I am just trying to keep balance in the force. Let's see here. All right, we need a timeout here. Let's all be cool. All right, we've got the ability to put people in timeout around here, and we will do it. All right, Dan Quinn, 2 games ago, if we lived right in this moment, 2 games ago, did not allow or did not force the Seattle Seahawks to punt. All right, now I know that the Cowboys had the 4th down stops at the end of that game. That is not, something I have forgotten, all right? They stood tall when the moment mattered the most, but the moment only mattered that much because of the hole that the Cowboys defense dug for themselves, and the Cowboys offense saved them over and over and over and over against the Seattle Seahawks. It's very hard on Dan Quinn that night, despite the fact that the Cowboys won. I think the tape will show all of that if you go back and watch all of our episodes 100 times, which I know you all do because you're loyal viewers. And we obviously gave Dan Quinn a lot of props last week because the Cowboys, as we mentioned earlier, referred to and referenced, the Cowboys did not allow a single touchdown against the Philadelphia Eagles. This was bad. I mean, this was so bad. The Bills did punt. All right. So, hey, respect. But this was awful. All right. And if you want to be one of those people that comes in here and tells me my face on the internet, my two-dimensional face, and say, Mike McCarthy is not even doing anything. This is all Dan Quinn. Then you better be in here right now roasting and dragging Dan Quinn. Because if you think that Dan Quinn is the one who is really in charge, then you better come at Dan Quinn for obviously the penalties, for the overall lack of organization, and for his side of the ball getting completely and totally worked. Not by MVP contender Josh Allen, but by James Cook. James Cook, does anybody know how many yards and how many touches James Cook had? He had 16 carries. Not 16, this is updated. He had James Cook in total had 25 carries for a buck 79 and a touchdown. This man averaged 7.2 yards per carry. You know what else 7 is besides one of the best jokes in the best sitcom in television history, Monica Geller and Friends? 7 is the amount of passes that Josh Allen completed. All right. I love Josh Allen. I think he's fun. I think he's great. Obviously, we all have a little bit of a problem with Josh Allen because he doesn't catch quite the same heat as Dak Prescott does for the turnovers. I know that's not a hill anybody wants to be on right now. But on a day where the MVP contending Josh Allen threw or completed 7 passes, you let this dude run all over you, and you cannot sit here and place the blame simply on the feet of the players. Now, there's a lot to go around there, but this has to really be on Dan Quinn. I do agree here that there are a lot of trolls in the room. If you can identify the trolls from your chat, I trust you. We will put the appropriate people in timeout. We don't like to block people around here. We want to give people second chances, but if people are going to be rude, if people are going to disrupt your experience, please let me know. We definitely will put people in timeout if they're affecting your viewing experience. If they're not being cool, if they're not being cordial, that's definitely what we do around here. But anyway, Dan Quinn, dude, no, this is not it, man. Like again, it is a really, really, really bad day for Dan Quinn. A lot of people, and again, I still think highly of Dan Quinn, and I still believe that Dan Quinn will probably be a head coach somewhere else. But the idea that Dan Quinn is like the perfect thing within the Cowboys, I hope all the wool has been taken off over our eyes, and we can see that just like everybody else, Dan Quinn is fallible. I agree, though, with Scott. He's got to forget this one and move on. But before we do that, we have to continue with the stock report. All right, let's keep going. Stock down, Sam Williams. Dude. Now, I um I don't totally blame Sam Williams for the roughing penalty. And I understand the rules. All right. So you got to know the rules. So at the end of the day, the rules are the rules. But, like, what's he supposed to do when he's in the air? You know what I mean? And at that point, you leave yourself susceptible, and that's the problem with Sam Williams right now. This isn't the first time this has happened. You set yourself and your team up really poorly when you make these mistakes. You turn stops into points for the other team, and that is a direct one-way ticket, not the Carrie Underwood song, but the phrase, the reference point to finding yourself on the stock down portion of my stock report. Really bad day for Sam Williams in that sense. And what was a shame was he had a great stop on Josh Allen like 5 minutes before that was completely and totally forgotten as soon as this happened. So really, really, really frustrating day. I agree with Shane. You can't leave your feet in that way, and I get it. I get it. I just what I guess my gripe with this is I hate punishing people trying to do amazing things. And Sam Williams was trying to do an amazing athletic thing. He's got to know the rules. Those are the rules, and you got to play by the rules. So tough, tough scene. Tough moment. All right, next up, stock down. Got a feeling that we're about to light a flame, and all you moths are going to come in here. Stock down, J-Ron Curse. Whoa, whoa. Um, this might have been This might have been one. I mean, this was like top 3, one of the worst games that any defensive player has played for the Cowboys this season, right? And Jaron Kearse. And you could sit here and you can talk about how Malik Hooker was out and, the stomach bug that's going around the locker room, whatever. Jaron Kearse was really bad. And he was so bad that at one point in time, the broadcast highlighted how he was unblocked and couldn't make a difference. Look, I don't I feel so uncomfortable saying things like this because I'm not an athlete. I love to golf. That's about it. That's as far as I can stretch myself athletically. So I'm not acting like I can do this or I am, of peak athletic form. But maybe the slowest player on the field, right? Like, I mean, just could not keep up in any way, shape, or form with anybody on the Buffalo Bills offense. And I will actually defend Curse a little bit on the penalty. I don't know what he's supposed to do on that moment. So, like, my stock down has really nothing to do with the penalty. That was a rough moment for the team overall. I get it if you want to teach him to be a little bit different or whatever, but I think he's just trying to make a play. But his stock down is really just because of his play. Really, really, really bad. S.J. Johnson, thank you for the super chat. Here we go. Says, not stressed about the loss. A couple penalties kept drives alive for Buffalo. My biggest worry is stopping the run. Our current linebackers are small. We lost the Guards and 49ers the same way by allowing a lot of run yards. I agree with that. I mean, that's kind of their thing, though, is to have these small linebackers. When you no longer have Leighton Vander Esch, you're just stuck with these small dudes or safeties like Jaron Kearse playing the position. So you want that. You want those fast guys. You want to, play in coverage, and you're built to play from ahead. I thought that Greg Olsen did a great job of highlighting that throughout the game. Really, 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 really rough day for Jaron Kearse. So, all right, if that one opened the door, prepare to open the floodgates. Stock down, Dak Prescott. All right, Dak was I mean, like, I don't know, like, I'm gonna say bad, and he was bad, but, like, I don't feel like he was, like, bad, bad. I mean, he was bad. He's 21 of 34, about 34, had the interception at the end that shouldn't have happened because he shouldn't have been playing, because it was so silly to leave him in there, but whatever. Anyway, in the same way that this was supposed to be and may still be a different Cowboys team, this was supposed to be a game where, Dak, you come in and you're supposed to ball out, man. This is supposed to be your time. This is supposed to be your moment. You are the front runner for MVP. You're the betting favorite for MVP. You have to come in and completely and totally dominate. Be that dude. Be him. Um, and he wasn't, and we can sit here and we can talk about how the Bills just dominated from a coverage standpoint, how we had nothing open for him, and that might be true, and it is unfair and a little bit unrealistic, but still somewhat fair and actually really fair to say you gotta find a way, you gotta be the difference maker. You want that contract where you're gonna get paid maybe $60 million a year, you gotta make those plays. You wanna be the MVP, you gotta make those plays. You're gonna be the leader of this team, the straw that stirs the drink, the engine that powers this all, you have to make those plays. And he didn't. And, you know, people are gonna be really loud and obnoxious about Dak Prescott this week because that's just the way things go. If you're, like, all the way out, on Dak, I think that's an overreaction. He's played at an incredibly and insanely high level, and this isn't to, like, make up for him. He was awful on Sunday. But, let's just relax. But it is frustrating, and it's getting harder, obviously, until Cowboys do it and until Dak Prescott does it to say that they're gonna be able to do it. They're gonna be able to accomplish whatever it may be in the ultimate moment because every somewhat sort of measuring stick opportunity that they have, they fail, and, that's a tough scene. And so in the same way, these are kind of the same for me. They're kind of obviously the quarterback and the quarterback of the defense. Stock down Micah Parsons, and, what I mean by this is you gotta be I mean, if you are great, and I believe that Micah Parsons is great, you gotta be great. I mean, you gotta find a way, and you cannot be a part of a group that gets destroyed and gets run over and gets lambasted. I mean, Micah, like Dak, entered this game as the front runner and the betting favorite for his version of MVP, 'cause that's the way the awards work, right, for Defensive Player of the Year, and I imagine he might still be. I don't know that Myles Garrett has done enough, although he's obviously deserving in his own right, but, um I mean, and D-Day too with a comment, and I think this is becoming more and more of a popular take, says Micah's a pass rusher, run defense is average. And I don't know that I would say he's average, but I mean, that's getting harder to refute, right? Like, that's getting really difficult to fight back against. And that's, something that Micah Parsons has the ability to influence. And so stock down Micah Parsons for me, really just, you know, big bummer. I'm not mad or disappointed. I know disappointed is kind of a synonym for being bummed. I'm bummed. That's how I feel relative to Micah Parsons and how I feel relative to DeMarcus Lawrence, who's also on my stock down list. We hoist up and herald DeMarcus Lawrence as, this run-stopping defensive end, which he is, and we talk about his elite ability to stop the run, which he has. Early in this game, yeah, I tweeted out, "Man, it kinda feels like D-Law's gonna have a good game." Oh, wrong. And the penalty, if we wanna sit here and cry about a penalty and whine and be silly about a penalty, I think it has to be the one against DeMarcus Lawrence. Great flop by Josh Allen, playing the game, the acting game and the refereeing game. And, you could certainly argue that DeMarcus Lawrence has to know better in that moment, but you just got run all over, dude. I mean, you got absolutely and totally run all over, so you have to obviously, I think give DeMarcus Lawrence a stock down as kind of the leader of the person who stops and inhibits the run on a weekly basis. Just a tough scene for him. A lot of you have talked about Marquise Bell. Stock down for me. Some of that is, again, you got these small linebackers, they're not built for that. That's, a little just the way it is, and that goes back to Dan Quinn, right? Like, you gotta be prepared for this, and you're potentially setting up your smallish linebackers, to not look well and to not fare well in these moments, and I think the Marquise Bell alright, we're gonna chill out with, we're putting some people back in timeout. Again, there's no need to be a jerk to anybody, there's no need, to be rude, so we're just, let's oh, goodness gracious, I'm having a difficult time with this. This is so fast, for my, there we go. All right. back to order around here. I don't have a gavel, but if I did, I would not be afraid to use it. We're gonna be cool around here, people, and all love and respect one another while being pissed off at the Dallas Cowboys. But anyway, Marquise Bell, disappointing day, disappointing just situation. My last stock down, because I mentioned I have one volatile stock, Mazi Smith, and I saw, I think it was Sean, I don't know if I the fan, somebody tweeted at Sean during the game and said, like, "He's so bad, this and that." And I saw Sean quote that and say something that I'm paraphrasing here, but something, "Who's fighting you?" Like, who's, like, defending Mazi Smith right now? And by the way, here's a quote from Dak here at the podium, asked about the hits he took today. He said, "I feel great, no impact how I played. I wish I could say that they did." Okay, yeah, that's somewhat good, I guess. Is it unfair, like a teeny bit unfair to say Mozzie has to be amazing as a rookie? Maybe a little, right, like in a general sense. Um, but it's not, right? Like, Jonathan Hankins is out, the mighty Jonathan Hankins, you gotta find a way. That's who it is, and the Cowboys put all that pressure on him. He has to be a difference maker. He has to be somebody who can come in and be a relief pitcher and get you out of a troublesome 7th or 8th inning, and he can't do that right now. He can't, and that doesn't, mean that he's a failure or he's a bust or anything like that, but, just not a contributing player right now, and that's frustrating, obviously, to watch. By the way, I didn't mention this, but, if you're watching on the YouTube side of things, we obviously do not have a star of the game. So what we decided was to ask you who was the biggest disappointment of the game for the Dallas Cowboys in your mind. The 4 options, I guess, are Mike McCarthy, Dan Quinn, Dak Prescott, or other. You can tell us who you want, obviously, if you're watching. Currently, Dan Quinn leads that vote, so kind of the opposite of the star of the game. That being said, we'll close that out in a little bit, but Skyler, by the way, says, "Have a great night, you filthy animal. See you later. Rest easy, Skyler. All the best." But yeah, so final stock down for me was Mazi Smith. I mentioned I had a volatile stock, and it's the run game. I do feel like I almost gave this a stock up, but I mean, how could we give anyone a stock up after this game? But it did feel like Tony Pollard was playing well, like Rico Dowdle was playing well. The run game just got taken out, of control like it was impossible for the Cowboys to run. The game script kind of changed. Everything kind of, adjusted and moved to the point that the Cowboys couldn't rely on the run game anymore because, we blinked and it was 14-0 and they were struggling to move the ball through the air. So that was encouraging, right? If you're really trying to stretch, if you're really looking for like some positives, it was great. David with a great point here says the run game was so good. They threw a bomb on 3rd and 1. Seriously, what are y'all doing, man? But I was pleased by that. I mean, that's the word I'll use, pleased. Yeah, just a rough day. Kevin says volatile stock. Know the whole offense was trash. They had less than 100 yards of offense till the 4th quarter. Kenneth Cook says run the ball with Pollard. Shane, by the way, on the subject of the run game, says they moved the ball early. The flags ruined everything momentum wise. Let's see. Brett Madrid, or it was Brett Madrista, I would assume so. Says Cowboys number 1 offense getting out yarded by a single running back is embarrassing. I agree. I mean, I don't mean this sarcastically, but like, who is sitting here? I mean, who is sitting here defending the Cowboys? I mean, I'm sure that take exists, but like, who is sitting here saying anything other than this was humiliating, this was embarrassing, this was unacceptable? This feels like the take. Like, there's not any other way you can kind of spin or feel about this game. Amit, I agree with this. Says I can't believe Josh Allen completed 7 passes and we lost. And I would argue he could have completed fewer than 7 and been totally fine. I mean, this was what was it? This was 2019 NFC Championship game vibes, right? Where Jimmy Garoppolo only completed 8 passes or whatever it was. Let's see. Carlos says this game was over halfway through the 1st quarter. No stock up today for anyone. Yeah, I mean, it was a really, really bad day. Let's close our poll here. Our winner, if you want to call it that, for most disappointing player or person with the Dallas Cowboys. Our disappointment of the game, if you will, is the one and only Dan Quinn. And I don't feel like happy about this, obviously. I have been hard on Dan Quinn at times, but and I don't feel like, but hopefully you all see what Dan Quinn really is, blah, blah, blah. I just feel kind of shocked. I mean, I've, I believe obviously that Dan Quinn has flaws, but like this was really bad. You know, obviously our only kind of experience similar to this season is San Francisco. I know Arizona happened, whatever. But when San Francisco runs all over you, right? Like if you're a team that, like when the Eagles got waxed by the Niners, you're sitting to yourself thinking like, well, I mean, they got Christian McCaffrey, right? Like they got Deebo Samuel, right? Like they got, Brandon Ayuk, they got George Kittle, right? Like, of course we're gonna get waxed. That's just like they literally are waxed. Like we can't do anything against them. And I don't mean any disrespect towards James Cook, but it's like, okay, how are you getting destroyed by James Cook? This isn't Christian McCaffrey. This isn't, peak Alvin Kamara, or I mean, spin the wheel and pick whatever running back. I mean, like you're getting run all over by James Cook. And so, man, embarrassing. JM214 says there are no positives from this game. We all clearly saw what happened out there on the field. Move on to the next game. I really don't know what a positive would be. I mean, I'm struggling to come up with one. Brett, I'll get to your comment in a moment here. Let's get this off the screen. Congrats to Dan Quinn. We don't have anything we're sending him for this, if you're curious. Micah Parsons just now, this tweet coming out from Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News on the drop-off on the road compared with home. This is Micah's exact quote, again, courtesy of Michael Gelkin. Honestly, it's just unacceptable at this point. There's no excuse for it. It's mind-boggling. I don't understand why we're not playing well and why we're not coming together on the road. It's something that we need to look at and get better, because we've got to go back on the road next week versus the Dolphins. Now, I'm not mad at Micah. Like, I think that's the right thing to say, but I think we're kind of, done with this, right? Like, I mean, I think we're kind of done with the like, ooh, they're pissed off, right? Like, is anybody going to feel better because they're like, oh, we were embarrassed and we don't ever want to feel this way again? Like it reminds me of last year. And I hate to put Micah on the spot like this, but when the Cowboys blew that 14-point lead in the fourth quarter of the Packers, I believe Micah, and I'm paraphrasing here, had a quote something along the lines of like, if Dak ever gives me a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, I'm never going to blow it again. And they literally did that. Like if you like right after in Jacksonville. So I think that these are kind of, they feel like empty words right now to be like, I'm pissed off. And again, I don't fault the players for saying that because they don't have anything else to say right now. This is just a crummy situation where, everyone's just going to be mad. Everyone's going to be mad until there's not a real reason to be mad anymore. And I don't know what that reason would be. I don't know, what would fix things. I mean, I'll ask you actually, as I begin to answer Brett's question here, I would like each of you to tell me what would make you feel better about the team. And I'm talking realistic goals. All right. We're getting rid of the trolls here, people. So what could conceivably happen that would make you feel better about this team? We'll address your comments in a moment, but first we get to Brett's, who says, RJ, please give us a silver lining here. I mean, I think the silver lining is that our favorite team is 10-4, that they have clinched a playoff spot. There are 17 games in an NFL regular season, and they clinched a playoff spot in 13 of them. All right. Now, some of that is, just the result of other teams failing, right? Some of that's out of their control. But they're a very good team. They have been a playoff team 3 straight years in a row. They continue to learn lessons, we'll call them, about what it's like to get punched in the mouth. They have 3 weeks to fix this. And even though we would have loved for the Cowboys to win the NFC East, which is still possible, albeit, slim opportunity here, and we would have loved for the Cowboys to be the 1 seed in the NFC, again, kind of a slimmer opportunity there. They are going to have an ability to, create their own bye. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. They're going to have an ability to rest up. I know that the quotes are flying around. In fact, here's a quote from Zach Martin, thanks to Nick Harris, who covers the Cowboys for the Mothership. Nick's tweet says, Martin said he thought it was his knee, but fortunately it was just a deep hit to the quad. I'm hoping this week treat it and get it ready to go on Sunday. I feel good about that. Obviously, this game was a reminder that, you can get your ass kicked at any moment in time. But again, I think the Zach thing was a reminder of like, whoa, in one moment, you can just lose somebody who is so important to you. And so the fact that the Cowboys are going to have an opportunity, in all likelihood, to, I don't know why my voice cracked there. Interesting. It's been an interesting kind of ride for my voice, but that they're going to have an opportunity to rest players and prepare in advance for whoever wins the NFC South and beyond, obviously. That is a good thing. That is the silver lining. So, again, I would have loved, and I would still love, obviously for the Cowboys to win the division and be the 1 seed. But the fact that, the path is narrowing is a good thing, and it helps them kind of accept it and, determine the best possible path forward within the path itself. All right, so let's get to your answers about what would make you feel good about the Cowboys. Scott says 2 playoff wins. Well, that would only put you at the title game. And I have news for you, Scott, and I'm not coming at you, but for all the people that are like, I only want to keep McCarthy if he reaches the NFC title game. All those people that you see on the internet, if the Cowboys reached the title game and lost, they would be just as quick to say, fire him. I don't want him. He has to win. Yeah, I want to get to the Super Bowl. I want to win the Super Bowl. Like, people act like reaching the title game would be enough for them. It wouldn't, because if you lose the title game, you lose a trip to the Super Bowl. Nobody would accept that. So even 2 playoff wins is not enough, unfortunately, my friend. D-Day 2 says winning on the road versus Miami would be a start. I agree. Joey, I think honest answer says nothing at all today. Just got to hope they can move forward. Janie says get linebacker help. That's a great answer. Shane says this year, I don't really have an answer. They are what they are. Kevin says go out next week and win decisively in Miami. That's what we need to see, but don't hold your breath. All of you are kind of saying beat the Dolphins, beat the Dolphins, beat the Dolphins. That's fair. Lord says this reminds me back on Thanksgiving a couple years back when Buffalo also beat us convincingly. That was 4 years ago. Hillary Molly Vegas says it would make me feel better if the Cowboys would show they can adjust somehow, whether it's Micah playing linebacker and they start stopping the run. That's a great answer. I would love to see some creativity instead of just like, well, this is who we are. We accept it, and we're just going to hope that that's the best. Jay says silver lining is Seattle will play Philly without Darius Slay. DK Metcalf is going to eat tomorrow night. Hopefully so. Hopefully Jalen Hurts feels better. I know we all want to see them lose, but we never want to see people get hurt or be sick or anything like that. Diesel 80 says stock up Brandon Aubrey. Michael, this is a great silver lining, great spin. This might be a wake-up call. So if we think back to the 49ers loss, the Cowboys went on quite the tear after that, right? They obviously lost to Philadelphia, but even the Philadelphia loss was a bit of a wake-up call for them, right? They won 5 games in a row as a result of it. If they were to win 5 games in a row, right, and let's not count Week 18 because that one's not really going to count. So they win Week 16 against Miami. And again, we're just having fun here. Week 16 against Miami, Week 17 against Detroit. We're saying that Week 18 doesn't count. They win in the wild card round. They win in the divisional round. And they win the NFC Championship game. That would be the next 5 games of consequence in a row. And again, we have seen, that the Cowboys can buckle down after they lose a game. They normally always respond very well after losses. They respond very well after getting their teeth kicked in. We've seen that happen time after time after time again. And that's unfortunate because it makes it sound like they get their teeth kicked in all the time. But nevertheless, Mike McCarthy, who we can trust to a degree, Sunday was a bad day, but has proven that he has a program where his teams respond very well after big time losses and go on runs. And that is exactly where you want to be right now this time of year. Let's see here. Yeah, I think Tim, by the way, says wake up call sounds like a cliche. If wake up call sounds like anything, it sounds like heaven. Wake up call is a great song by Maroon 5. Anyway, this was a frustrating day for the Dallas Cowboys. And you're totally in the right to be mad and to be frustrated and to be sad and to be angry. They're still a very good team. Our anger will fade. It will subside. All right. We'll calm down. Hopefully the Eagles will lose on Monday night. We'll feel a little bit better. They are still a very good team. Okay. You have my permission to be mad, be as mad as you want. I'm pissed off. I was all ready for another victory polo Monday tomorrow. I don't get it after. Now I just got to wear like a hoodie or something. All right. But be mad, be upset, but remember that they're still a very good team. And remember that they have already clinched, punched, secured their playoff position, their playoff ticket, not position, obviously. And that's a good thing. All right. So all hope is not lost. Kevin says, RJ, I know this question is probably too far of a look ahead, but where's your confidence in this team's playoff chances with 0 home games? A lot of this, and, if you follow us at BTB, you know that we like to put together our rooting guide, which, we try to advise you on the best possible thing to root for the Cowboys. We're getting kind of close to rooting for the seeding that we want. I think it is inevitable that San Francisco is going to be the 1 seed, which means Philadelphia is likely going to be the 2 seed. That would mean Detroit's going to be 3, Tampa's probably going to be 4, Dallas be 5. I think what we want right now, and if you're looking for anything to root for, and this impacts my answer, Kevin, we need to root for a lower seeded wild card to get hot. All right. call it whoever you want. I'm talking the 6 or 7 seed, whether that's going to be the Rams or the Seahawks or the Vikings or the Packers or the Saints or whatever. But we need another wild card seated below the Cowboys to come in hot. All right. Because if things go the way that I just described, where Frisco's the 1 seed, Philly's the 2 seed, all right, we need that lower seeded wild card team. If we believe what we've been saying, that Philly, is bad and they're kind of fading themselves. Imagine, let me just use a hypothetical team to make my point kind of come together here. Say the Rams are the 7 seed, right? I think the Rams can play somewhat well. I think the Rams, have some talent. We've seen it certainly at different points this season. The Rams obviously got the win today. They are 7-7 now. And in fact, as we take a look at the NFC playoff picture, granted with Monday night's game not having happened yet, Sunday night is obviously 2 AFC teams. But at the moment, the Rams are the 7 seed. And that cannot change if the Seahawks win on Monday night. So that being said, I was trying to arrive at my point. Say the Rams go to Philly and win. Is that impossible? Right? Like, I don't think anybody can say that's impossible. Matthew Stafford's playing out of his mind. Cooper Kupp's been great. Puka Nacua is awesome. Kyron Williams, amazing, right? Say the Rams go to Philly and win in the wild card round, right? And say the Lions take care of the Vikings. That feels pretty obvious at this point in time. And the Cowboys obviously win in Tampa. We feel very confident in that. That would mean that in the divisional round, if that went the way we're saying, Dallas would go to Detroit and the Rams would go to San Francisco, right? Like that, if that happened, if it broke our way, the way we're kind of crafting and weaving it hypothetically here, right? The Rams would be the team to go to San Francisco. Now, I don't have a lot of confidence in that happening, obviously, but if your goal is 2 playoff wins and getting to the NFC Championship game, right? I mean, maybe the Rams do your dirty work for you. That's what we need at this point in time. I mean, we really need, and this isn't coping, this isn't anything, but like now that the 5 seed is kind of the spot, and if you're looking for silver lining and all these sorts of things, we need another team to get hot, a lower seeded wild card team to potentially do this dirty work for us. I mean, there is a possible world, a hypothetical world nonetheless, where the Cowboys don't even have to face Philadelphia and San Francisco at all in the playoffs. And so that's one way, obviously, to kind of look at this hypothetically. And so that affects how confident I feel, right? If you get that help, then obviously I have a lot of confidence. But if you told me that, in the divisional round that Dallas has to go to San Francisco, I don't feel confident at all. I mean, that is, kind of where I feel and how I feel rather. It all depends on the way the cards fall, on the way the seeding falls. And it's possible that it works out the way that we want it to. So hold on to hope. It's always possible. So that's where we're at. David Smith says NFC Championship game, Rams at Cowboys. Go RJ. I don't know about that, but yeah, I mean, if I know that, and I agree with, there was a comment from Jay that said we need Tommy DeVito, Ravens, and Geno Smith to do our dirty work for our 1 or 2 seed. While I agree with that, that seems pretty improbable at this point in time, right? Especially given that there are only 3 weeks left in the regular season after tomorrow night. And that being said, again, it's pretty decided, not truly, but pretty decided that Dallas is going to be the 5 seed. So are beyond hoping for Dallas looking great and playing well and finding themselves, rediscovering themselves, and everybody getting and staying healthy. What we have to hope for is somebody to get hot. That's what we need. Somebody down the ladder, get hot. I mean, get hot right now, Rams. And I think that the Rams are the best chance. I have more faith that the Rams can do this, mission that we're trying to assign here than certainly the Seahawks or the Vikings or the Packers. That's what we want to see. That's the world we want to live in. So anyway, that's where we're at. I'm sorry that today stunk. I hope you managed to have a great day in spite of it, and I hope you have a great week. We'll obviously be back here on our live show on Sunday after the Cowboys hopefully beat the Dolphins. But we have a lot of stuff coming your way between now and then, of course. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Threads at RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on TikTok at rj.ochoa. If you would like to send me an email, you can do so, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. You can, of course, leave comments on our videos, and I'll do my best to get to those as well. If I don't talk to you between now and then, maybe you don't have a chance because next Sunday is Christmas Eve and you have family in town and you just watch the game and then you're playing board games or doing whatever. I hope you have a great time celebrating Christmas with your family and your friends. I wish you many blessings, throughout your life this Christmas season and always. Thank you for being a part of our family here at Blogging the Boys. It means a lot, even I would say, especially on days like today. So if I don't talk to you, please have a very, very Merry Christmas. And I hope to see you soon of course, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. We can make it through this. I promise that we will together. So yeah, thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. I love you all. No Victory Polo Monday tomorrow, but we will still have a lot of stuff coming out throughout the Bog and the Boys universe. And yeah, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get out of here. Thanks a lot, guys, for hanging out. See you next time.